Hi, welcome back to Gatecrashers. Today I am interviewing someone very special to me. They are the co-host of the Cryptid Creator Corner podcast from Comic Book Yeti. They have also written for us in the past, so you may know their name. They have been published in By Visibility #1, Tales of the Bizarre, Band of Bards from the Static, and Comics from the Kitchen. They also recently successfully crowdfunded Made in Delco. If you don't know what Delco is, that is Delaware County, so they are all inspired by the Pennsylvania area. It's an anthology of comics that he wrote with a few other people, and there are many artists in it who are all incredible. The book is incredible. I got to read it before it was finished, and I actually have it sitting on my coffee table right now, and I was reading a couple of them before this. But what we're here to mostly talk about today is their new paper cuts graphic novel, Penny and the Yeti, with Amber Akin. I am joined by Jimmy Gaspero. How are you?
I am great. I am so excited to be on Gatecrashers. My only regret is that my favorite T-shirt, which is my Gatecrashers T-shirt, I wear it so much it's almost paper thin. It wasn't. It had just gotten like cleaned and put away, and I was like saving it for the weekend. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to do this in the Phillies hoodie.
Yeah, close enough.
My Gatecrashers T-shirt's my favorite shirt. I got the one with the that was inspired by the plot.
The plot? Yeah, I designed that one. I took all of their stuff and put it all together. Funny enough, your book's logo is designed by the same person who designed the logo for Gatecrashers, Tim Daniels.
It is because they asked me if I knew anyone that designed logos, and I said Tim Daniel, and they were able to get him.
Yeah, he does a lot of good stuff. He writes a bunch of books for them now too. I love, big fan. Okay, so I don't think you've been asked this yet, and I know it is your favorite food group. What is your favorite sandwich?
Yes, my children know that my favorite food is sandwiches, and I knew that this was coming because I'm familiar with the podcast, and I honestly thought about this all day in between all the stuff that I had to do for work today in terms of what, sandwich was I going to pick? I mean, because we're from, from an area, and especially in Delaware County that, there's phenomenal cheesesteaks, there's phenomenal hoagies, and I was racking my brain going back and forth, like which one do I pick? What do I gravitate towards? And I honestly have to say my favorite sandwich, though, if I really like, what's the last sandwich I would like to eat? That's how I thought of it.
That's a good one.
What's the last sandwich I'd want to eat? And it's my favorite last night after I've had a couple drinks sandwich that I can only have when we have leftover pasta. And it is very bizarre, I think. At least that's what some folks have told me when I've shared the secret of my late night sandwich. But I like white bread. Doesn't really matter what kind of white bread, but if I have like a nice Myers Italian loaf, that's the best. I butter both sides of bread. And then if we have leftover long pasta, spaghetti capellini, I take it like plain. Like we usually will keep the sauce separate from the pasta when we have on Wednesday nights is pasta night. So I will just take the dry leftover pasta, a good hunk of long pasta. I will put it on a plate. I will microwave it for 45 seconds. I will then put a slice of American cheese down on one of the buttered sides of bread. I will put the warm pasta so it just not really melts the cheese, but just softens it up a bit. Then I will sprinkle the whole thing with Old Bay. Then I will put another slice of American cheese on top of the other slice of buttered bread, and then put it cheese down on top of the warm pasta. And that is my favorite leftover spaghetti, American cheese, and Old Bay sandwich.
I was with you. I thought I knew where this was going, to be honest, because I've heard other Italians talk about just eating a spaghetti sandwich. It's just spaghetti with like garlic bread, and it's just what it is. But when you said Old Bay, I was just not ready for that turn. Like,
Yeah.
I just wasn't ready for that to be the thing that was going into the noodle sandwich.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to try it now. Like, that does. I grew up half Philly area and half Maryland, so like that's also in my blood. So do you like, do you toast the bread at all, or you're just putting butter on it straight up and just microwaving it?
I
No
have
judgment.
no, I have done it before where I've toasted the bread first. I do prefer it when the bread is not toasted. The only thing I microwave is the pasta.
Oh,
I don't.
okay.
I microwave the pasta separately on like a little plate, and then I will use the warm pasta to assemble my buttered bread and cheese and Old Bay sandwich.
I feel like you just awoken this memory in myself of my childhood up until I anytime after I've lived with my not lived with my mother. I haven't done this, but she used to keep just this economy size of pepperoni in our fridge because she loves pepperoni, and I would just make a sandwich that was just pepperoni, a slice of mozzarella cheese, and just microwaved, and just another piece of bread. That's it. Like, the grease from the pepperoni would go into the bread. It would be potato bread especially, but
Oh yeah.
the Old Bay is just, it's throwing me. I mean, it just threw me through a loop that I wasn't ready to be thrown through.
I'm not sure how I started doing it. I think I used to just make like leftover like spaghetti sandwiches, and I've certainly had it when I have like mixed the pasta with sauce, and I've had made like a spaghetti and meatball grilled cheese. Like, I've done a bunch of different variations of it.
You're
I
just
just think
branching
I
out.
really like. I just think I like Old Bay, and one day I was just like, wonder what this would be like with Old Bay on it, and then I was like, I kind of like it. So
I've made some horrifying concoctions with
yeah. Well,
living in a frat house, but yeah.
but it's also like weird food combinations from things that you have when you grow up, and like until you start you get older, and then you start talking about them with your friends, like, and then you realize like, oh, I'm like a total weirdo, nobody else does this.
Nobody
Like,
else does this shit. Yeah.
One of the things my dad would make a lot was linguine and clam sauce, right? And he would just wouldn't use like fresh clams. You just get the jar of clam sauce and heat it up and make linguine and clam sauce. But for whatever reason, we would always have it. He would make had one of those little fryers that were really popular in the late 80s, and he would fry up like chicken tenders. So we'd have linguine and clam sauce and like chicken tenders on the side. And I would dip the chicken in barbecue sauce like you do, whatever was handy. There was a point in time where Sweet Baby Ray's was really all they kept in the house. And so sometimes it would mix a little bit. And then it got to the point where I would eat linguine and clam sauce and just mix in barbecue sauce with it. So it was like linguine and barbecued clam sauce, and it doesn't look appetizing at all. But if I close my eyes right now, I can still taste it in the back of my tongue. Like, I just loved how it tasted. And it just came from having it all on the plate, and sometimes the linguine getting a little close to the barbecue sauce, and then I just started mixing it in, and then I just started eating linguine and clam sauce and barbecue sauce all together.
That is an evolution for sure. That is. I feel like at some point in my life,
is anyone still listening?
Yeah, at some point in my life, like, I feel like Sweet Baby Ray's was the only condiment that I saw in life. Like, it was just everywhere.
Yeah,
Fuck, I haven't had it in so long. Now I really want Sweet Baby Ray's. All right,
it's weird how that happens.
Yeah,
it was like there was no Sweet Baby Ray's ever, and it's probably one of those products that's been around forever and just made its way to like the East Coast. But I just remember all of a sudden it was Sweet Baby Ray's, and then that's all there was.
Yeah,
just all
one
every
day
time
it
I
happened.
went. Yeah,
like the thing. It was just everywhere.
Just everywhere.
So, the cool thing about you is that you also do this interviewing thing, but you have gone and started creating your own comics and writing and doing your own art. I am curious how much you think interviewing people in our industry has kind of painted how you approach comics. Like, is there any advice from any of the interviews you've done that has stuck with you? Have any anecdotes or anything like that, like, really informed how you create comics?
Oh, absolutely. I similar with you in terms of the podcast, like with the Cryptid Creator Corner, And Byron O'Neill, who's now the editor-in-chief of Comic Book Yeti and the other co-host, we host our own episodes. Like, we don't really, except for like our award show that we do at the end of the year, like we don't really host anything together. So it's pretty great that I can kind of make my own schedule and interview who I want. I'll talk to anybody from it's their first comic, first Kickstarter, to some folks that have been in the industry for a while, like Scott Snyder, and I've had Tom King on, Jason Aaron, Phil Hester. And yeah, I've learned so much. Like it has been a lot of fun to have, something that I enjoy doing and talking about comics. But yeah, having half an hour or 40 minutes with somebody to talk about the comic they're making, and there's certainly the promotional side of it, but to like ask them about story choices and to ask them about, especially as somebody who is not like isn't artistic in terms of drawing, but asking them about how they work with artists and even like really in the weeds stuff, like, how do you format things for a letterer, like whatever it is. There's so much that I feel like I've taken in and really had a class in comics the past 4 years. Just recently, I interviewed Dave Chisholm about his new book, Is Ted Okay?, which is like a new Man Cave book that is coming out.
It's beautiful.
And I love it. And I was asking Dave about some of like his particular choices, because Dave did pretty much everything with this, in terms of writing and art and coloring. And I was asking him about some of his choices, like, why did it look like this? Why did you pick these colors? Like, like what were some of the influences, some of the things? And it's like it sounds really simple and it makes sense, but it's not something I really consciously thought of. And when Dave said it really clicked. He was like, everything you do, every bit of dialogue, every panel, every color, the way the lettering is set up, everything you do is a choice to move the story forward. Everything you do should serve the overall narrative. Like there's nothing that's a throwaway. There's nothing that you just toss your hands up and say, I guess this is okay. Like that's how Dave's approach to comics. And I was just like, oh, wow. like that's, yeah, you're right. Everything you do can affect pacing, can affect tone, can affect emotionality, everything, every little piece of it. You should never pass up an opportunity to propel your story forward or to convey something to the reader. And I mean, it sounds like it's one of those things like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Of course. Like you're just not, but I don't know. Sometimes I think, I approach things and I'm like, yeah, this is okay. This is good enough. This is fine. But it's like, is it, is it fine? Yeah. Like, can we do better? Yeah, that kind of just simple statement just kind of like blew my mind that's how Dave approaches stuff. And it's like, and then you go back and I think about Is Ted Okay? And I think about Spectrum. I think about his Charlie Parker book or his Miles Davis book. And I was like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That guy knows what's up.
Yeah. And I love having these conversations because there's so many simple things that are right in front of us that we do every day and we don't even realize it until someone who has a different mind than us is like, oh no, like this is all serving a greater purpose.
Yeah.
Now, before we get into Penny and the Yeti, I do want to ask about Made in Delco because you ran a very successful Kickstarter. What was that like for you running one? Because I know you've been involved with many of them, but what is it like being the person, like the point person for a full thing to get your art out there?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard work. It's stressful. And, I feel like I had the benefit where most of the stories had already been, created. Like a few of them had already been published before in different anthologies. And a few of them who, I might have put out on social media at some point, but a couple of them had already been done, but either the book they were going to be in, like the anthology, fell apart, or I had just made it because I had a script and I thought, oh, this will be fun. Let's do something. Maybe I'll find a home for it. And so the nice thing about that is like the money was already spent. basically.
Mhm.
So I think it would have been different if I was working with an artist and had 5 or 6 pages of art and needed the Kickstarter to fund the rest of the issue. I think that's a whole other stress level. But still, it's just like anthologies had their heyday. It seemed like it was tougher to fund anthologies, and there was no real theme connecting all the stuff. Like I called it Made in Delco because like I was made in Delco, and there was one story in particular, the 10-page story Kevin, that was very heavily influenced by friends of mine in Delco. But I didn't know if anybody would, kind of show up for it, and I was very heartened by the response. Whether or not it was because of Comic Book Yeti or the podcast or me supporting other Kickstarters or being vocal about the things I liked on social media, it felt like there were, a lot of backers who, showed up for me. And I felt really heartened by that. But yeah, then once it was done, we were adding a couple of stories to it because we had hit one of the stretch goals. So we still had to get a couple of stories done, and I wanted to get the book into backers' hands. So there was that stress afterwards of making sure things were moving, making sure I was updating backers, making sure nobody felt like I was like just took their money and ran. But yeah, it does feel like absolutely great though now that like the books are all out in everybody's hands, and like it's done. I think there's only a friend of mine who backed it, who is in the Air Force and is overseas. I think he's the only one that hasn't gotten his yet. He will. But
There's
everyone else has theirs.
Are terrible with responding to messages, and especially with Kickstarters. I love supporting Kickstarters, but then I forget to respond when they're like, "Hey, we need your address." I'm like, "Oh fuck!" It's like 3 months later. I'm like, "Oh, I'm such an asshole." But it's a great anthology. The one that sticks out to me and has stuck with me since I first read it. Tell me if the title's wrong here, but LGBT D&D.
Yeah, LGBTQ RPG.
Yeah, that was RPG. It's such a wonderful story. Like, it's just a really, really good comic.
Thank you.
And I still think about it like a lot. I think it's a great, I wasn't expecting it because I was like, oh, Made in Delco, but then it's just a really nice story.
Yeah. Thank you. That was the first story that I ever had published. It was in the Lifeline Comics by Visibility #1. It was an idea that I had pitched, and they accepted it. Kat, who does stuff for Lifeline, who's amazing, he really worked with me and edited the story. I got just magically partnered with Beck Kubrick, who did the artwork, and it was lettered by Taylor Esposito, who I'm a huge fan of.
Yeah, who does great work.
Yeah, and I'm really proud of that story. I was really, that's the first thing that I ever had published, so I wanted to include it in the anthology. And it's even, more serendipitous, I guess, because when I had the idea for the short Yeti and the Big Stomp that eventually became the larger story of Penny and the Yeti, I had reached out to Beck, and Beck wasn't available, but they gave me a couple of names, and one of them was Amber Aiken, and that's how I got connected with Amber, my co-creator and artist for Penny and the Yeti. So
you did the transition for me, which was great, because I was going to go the route of that was your first story ever, but this is your first like published. Well, this is like your first publisher work. Like, this is your first
this is the Penny and the Yeti is the first thing that I've done, the first thing that I've written that's longer than 10 pages.
Yes, a full graphic novel. Now it's I read it today. I told you before, and I'll say it on the show so people can hear it. It's a wonderful book. I love when comics meant for younger audiences aren't talking down to their audience. I'm of the belief the Jim Henson, you have to talk to somebody on their level about what you want them to understand. So this book deals with it's a wonderfully fun comic, but there also is some heavier topics in it, and it's nice to have it in a way that is digestible for younger audiences, but it is never like looking down at them to be like, well, you won't understand this. Like, when children do have much more I want to say like bridge for empathy, like they understand more than you give them credit for. So I want a little bit of insight into your approach to writing for younger audiences. I know you have children. I do have questions about that as well, but like, how do you write for a younger audience versus one of those other short stories that you have written for more of a wide array?
That was probably the biggest challenge. Not only in terms of wanting to get it right, but I guess the imposter syndrome part of it all. Like, I've never written for kids. Like, why am I qualified to do that? How do I know how to do that? I just, I've read a bunch. My two kids are now 13 and 8, and we've read a ton of comics, graphic novels, and I've, kind of consumed all of that. And I also really, I mean, this story started out as just a 4-page short, a story idea that my Penny, my daughter, and I came up with. She was 5 at the time. I mean, the very beginning of Penny and the Yeti started in the summer of 2022. So it's been 4 years from that idea of a 4-page short to now the full-blown comic coming out in April. And I always tried to keep, her in mind, and my older daughter too, and Charlotte as well. Just the stuff that we read at that age and kind of how they reacted to it. I didn't want to put anything in there that I thought was, too heavy or over the kids' heads. I just think my own children, I'm constantly surprised as they were growing up how perceptive they were and how much they understood and how much they paid attention when I thought maybe they weren't. And so, the central kind of conflict is that the parents, Fenton and Maxine, in a fight, like quite a bit. And it's not like War of the Roses, but there is a tension. There is a tension in that house. And the older daughter, Perry, is kind of checked out. She's like 13 and she's just like, I've dealt with this before. This has been going on a long time. She kind of keeps to herself. And Penny, who's younger, is like, about 7. It's still really, the conflict bothers her. Even though it's not usually directed at her, just that tension. And I think that's something, kids understand, whether or not that's something that happens at home or on the playground or in their school, like wherever it is, that tension of people not getting along and you just wanting them to, whether or not because it's your parents or your friends. And so I had certainly seen a lot of stories, whether or not it was episodes of TV when I was a kid or books that I've read or movies about kids dealing with the aftermath of divorce and how to navigate that. And I, never really or couldn't think of anything at the time where kids were kind of dealing with like parents, like not necessarily in the middle of it, but it's clear there's something wrong with the parental relationship and it really bothers the kids. And the kids, Penny in particular, don't quite know how to talk about it. Like they don't quite know other than to, be upset, like don't know how to say, how to really deal with it. And that's when one of Perry's drawings of a Yeti kind of just comes to life to quote unquote help Penny. But this Penny and Yeti quickly learned that their plans and schemes don't exactly work as they try and navigate it. But I also really wanted Yeti to kind of I think the character of Penny really yearns for a stronger relationship with her older sister. And because the older sister is the age she is, and because of the age gap, she's a little bit checked out. So Yeti kind of stands in as like that sibling who kind of gives Penny the emotional support and a little bit of a partner in crime. But then to get back to your original question, that was very hard to think about how to write for kids, to not ever get too heavy, to not ever put something in there that I thought would be over kids' heads. I really just tried to keep my own kids in mind. And also the first editor we had on the book, Stephanie Brooks, She had left at some point and Teddy Leo came on, but Stephanie very early on was very conscious of what it was we were trying to do and really helped steer the ship in a direction to make it so I thought that it would work on a level for both parents and kids. And if ever I strayed into an area that didn't seem to be working, she pulled it back.
It's always good to have an editor who can pull you back. Now, I know you being a father has informed this book a ton because you're saying like you've read all these books their entire lives and things like that. Did they give you feedback on the book, your daughters? Did you let them read it? And what were their thoughts on it?
They've seen sections of it. They have not read the whole thing yet. Both of them. Charlotte doesn't like to read anything digitally, and Penny the same. Penny, they both said that they wanted to wait till the book was actually out, but there were certain things that there were certain scenes that I talked to them about, like, just to kind of get their thoughts in terms of. But mainly, it wasn't so much of like the tougher scenes, meaning the scenes that I thought would be like emotionally impactful, but it was more like the fun stuff. Like, hey, I need a scene where the character of Penny and Yeti do this. Like, let's all brainstorm what would be a fun thing for them to do. And so we it would be like a writer's room. We just pitch a bunch of ideas.
That's incredible. I love that it's just come together as like your family. The thing that I actually think that is going to stick with me the most from this is that it's not an imaginary friend. Like, Yeti is there. Like, mom and dad see Yeti. Everyone sees Yeti. What makes you go that route rather than like only Penny sees Yeti? Because it's incredible. Like, I love that choice. I'm just so curious of like why that versus the norm.
Two reasons, really. One is, I thought if it was like I've seen the imaginary friend thing done, whether or not it's like Drop Dead Fred or Jimmy Stewart and Harvey and a bunch of other things where it's
kids'
like
favorite,
the imaginary.
Harvey.
Harvey's Jimmy Stewart's real big with kids. I don't know if you know that, but right now Jimmy Stewart's
love that bunny
huge.
rabbit.
All third and fourth graders are doing is quoting Harvey and the man who shot Liberty Valance. That's just what they're doing.
Recess is wild.
It is. And I felt recently I had seen and read in terms of comics some really good things where like the imaginary friend like does come to life, whether or not it's in a horror book, like The Nasty, or which John Lees wrote, and a couple other things. And there's actually another writer that I interviewed on the podcast, Balaj Lorenzi, has a couple of books called Wolf Pitch, and there's one with pepper in the title. Maybe it's just called A Bite of Pepper. But I really love talking to him, and one of the things about his books, there's especially in terms of Wolf Pitch, it's about like a ghost, a werewolf, and some other type of, I don't know if it's a human or some other type of supernatural character that are like in a band. And like in the world that they're in, these things just exist. There's no like explanation or lore dump as to like, why are there humans and vampires and werewolves? It's just how the world is. And I was talking to him about that in the podcast, and I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do. Like, I don't want it to be weird. Like, Yeti's just here. We're not going to get into the weeds of how could Yeti be here? Yeti came off the page. Is Yeti like, does just Penny see Yeti? Like, we played around with the different ideas, like Amber and I said, I was like, I think that makes the most sense. Yeti's here now. The family sees Yeti. Yeti goes to school. Yeti goes to dance class. People are maybe surprised or excited, but this isn't a book where, they have to hide Yeti from the government trying to get Yeti. That's not what this Yeti is about. It is a drawing from Perry that has come to life in some fashion for Penny. And it was important that the drawing came from Perry, because I think Yeti is really kind of like a stand-in of that emotional support that that Penny is looking for. And I just thought that was like the most fun, because then I just love the idea of, I'm such a jerk that like my own stuff made me laugh. But like when reading back through the book when it was all done, and when like Fenton the dad first discovers Yeti, and his first thing is like, does your mom know? That just made me giggle. And I felt like this is what I want to do. This is it. This is the right direction.
That and the conversation, like, what do Yetis eat? Can we afford this? That really got me. That, and there is one comment of, I don't want to ruin everything, but Fenton says, were you trying to parent trap us? And like the kid's like, what? It's just like very funny for like people who are going to be reading it to their kids and be like, oh yeah. I all over, like I really enjoyed this book, and I'm a huge cryptids guy. I love cryptids. Mothman, who is in this and is beautifully drawn by Amber. He's just a cute little stuffed animal. But Comic Book Yeti, you've got this Yeti book. What is your actual favorite cryptid? Like, is it the Yeti, or has it become the Yeti because of everything you've been doing?
Well, I mean, starting reviewing, for Comic Book Yeti, when Matt Ligeti, who first started it, reached out to me. And I mean, doing everything I've done for Comic Book Yeti, and now without Comic Book Yeti, I don't know that I ever would have started trying to write comics. And, this kind of 5-year journey that I've been on, because I think my first review was published January of 2021. So it's been 5 years since I've been doing stuff with Comic Book Yeti and started trying to write comics. I love the Yeti. I mean, my kids and Sarah are going to be getting me like Yeti stuff if ever they need a gift to get me. So I do love Yeti. My favorite cryptid, though, just because I think it's so weird, is a cryptid that's local to Pennsylvania called the squonk.
With the 2 legs?
I don't know if it doesn't just have 2 legs. It kind of looks like a big wrinkled pig. I think it has
yes.
It's known because it cries all the time because it's like so ugly, and you can tell it by its But the squonk, I get the idea of like the Jersey Devil and, different cryptids, whether or not it's Bigfoot or Mothman or the Dogman of Michigan or the Chupacabra.
The Fresno Nightcrawler is just like 2 legs and it's just like eyes. It's a very goofy looking thing. But the squonk.
How did somebody come up with like that?
It beats me.
The squonk, I don't think gets enough love, and it's local to Pennsylvania, so the squonk's my favorite.
Yeah, I always want to say that. I mean, the Mothman is my favorite just because that big juicy ass. But I live in the area. My family has always lived in the towns where the Jersey Devil was like. Haddonfield, all these places where like the stories come from. It's just where I've grown up. Like it's just been here. Like it's my local.
Oh,
like we see him at like Wawa sometimes. You hold the door for him, give him a go burrs. You're good.
Yeah. You like as you're like parking the car, he's just at the Wawa trash can, like just eating his hoagie. Having a soft pretzel.
Yeah.
I pitched a Mothman story once to an anthology that they passed on it. But I have the outline still somewhere, but it was, like a riff, a kind of a rip off of like, X-Files, because I was a huge fan. So very X-Files influenced of 2 TikTok influencers who were obsessed with cryptids. And that's what their TikTok channel was about. They would go around and make videos in different areas of cryptids. Like they'd go to Appalachia, they'd go to, the Pine Barrens, whatever it was. And the guy was obsessed with the girl TikTok partner and, but tried not to show it. And she was obsessed with Mothman. And so the whole comic was just a bit of him trying to figure out how he could capture Mothman and impress her to get with her. And while he's setting up shots, like she is, like Mothman is there, like totally, and they're oblivious to Mothman's presence. And then it culminates with him filming something and her getting it on with Mothman while he's oblivious to what's going on. And I thought it was hysterical, like a little X-Files nod to like Jose Chung's From Outer Space, just like the ridiculous of it. But they passed on it. But I got it in my back pocket, Dan. So
yeah, you got to make that happen. So with Penny and the Yeti coming out in April, do you want to keep writing books for young adults, or is it something you've done yours and now you want to go do like something else? Like what do you feel that your trajectory is next?
Yeah, good question. I think about that a lot. I'm not really sure. I mean, if like Penny and the Yeti does well and they want me to do another one, like
I hope so.
No problem. Like absolutely. I got plenty of ideas. I'd love to keep this going. I have other ideas for other kids' books, and I'd like to keep doing that. I just got to get it together and send some pitches out there and do that. You're just trying to navigate finishing up the campaign for Made in Delco, getting that out to backers, and then now finishing Penny and the Yeti and doing press for it now and gearing up for the launch. But I'll get back on that. But I have some other stories I want to tell. Like, I'm a huge sci-fi fan. I read a lot of horror. I don't know that I'm super interested in writing horror, but I have some sci-fi time travel type of stuff that I would love to do. I'd love to do. I have an idea. Like, there's a 1 page in Made in Delco that I did with Marcus Jimenez called "The Rise of Juniper Cain." I would love to turn that into like an actual old school like Western. I grew up. My grandfather every weekend when he was at our house or when we were down in Florida visiting them would just have Westerns on. I was just inundated by them, and I feel like, I would be a shame if I didn't use the story idea that I've had and develop that. I want to do that. So yeah, I have other stuff I want to do. It's just me getting it together and trying to make it happen.
You've done it. You've published a book. You're good. You're started. You've been doing this for a long time, but now you'd be like, I have an officially published thing. So you're there. You made it to the big game.
Whew.
Yeah. It's also, Amber's work is just so good on this. It is a beautiful book.
Amber's phenomenal. An absolute like wonderful person to work with, a co-creator in every sense, in terms of sending her the outline, sending her, drafts of the script, for her to look at, asking her questions about what she thinks and her inputting her ideas, and then just what she would, do with the script in terms of how she laid everything out, just how beautiful everything was. And I think that's one of the great things of the book. I do keep hearing like it's surprising seeing the cover and seeing the art, and like there is a heavier element to the story. But I'm like, yeah, but that's why it works. Like if the art wasn't as so fun and whimsical and fantastic as it was, I think the heaviness of it might drag it down. But yeah, Amber's work is just phenomenal. There's a couple of pages that when I saw them, there's certainly other artists I've worked with, and I've loved the stuff I've got. I love the artists that I got to work with. Everybody in, Made in Delco, and other things that I've done. But there's a scene early on, I think in like once Yeti is kind of revealed and is kind of sneaking in the back of the car as the kids are going to school. And it's like a full page spread of Yeti just like looking out the window. And our letterer, Buddy Beaudoin, just did like, I think I said had Yeti saying whoa or wow or something. But Buddy in the lettering just did like a white exclamation point surrounded by blue, which is how he did all of Yeti's lettering. And I was like, yeah, I was just like knocked back.
There's so many fun sequences in. I can't spoil them because whenever Penny and Yeti are together doing some sort of scheme, the way they are set up and executed are so like whimsical that like it just sells the entire book. It's so much fun. There's this, I won't say what it is, but they're specifically trying to steal something.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping you'd say. That's one of my favorite pages.
But that, like, like the whole like Ocean's 11 planning schemes, like where they're drawing everything out, is always so cute. Like it's just the book, and we've talked about how it's got some heavy topics, but it never feels that way. It feels like there's so much whimsy and fun that like the goal is to make everyone get to feel that level of joy that they are feeling, that they may have lost in the time of, being an adult and communicating and dealing with all that stuff. So I'm very excited for people to get to read this. You can get it. You can do the pre-orders now at Paper Cuts, the website. I will put the link in the website so you can get to it. Pre-order it. Make sure you pre-order it. You can also tell your comic book shop that you want this book. Please tell your comic book shop you want this book. Pre-order.
Yep.
They're very important. Make sure you're getting out there and getting this book. Jimmy, thank you for being here.
Oh, Dan, thank you so much. I wish I had time to continue doing it. I know I just kind of like got way too busy with work, but I think back to the stuff I did for Gatecrashers, and because you had reached out to me about reviewing things, but when I was doing those really fun meta reviews of the Joker were some of the most fun things I ever got to write.
It is so funny that GC52 was a thing because it exists in the DC universe. It's canon. Like the thing that we all did together of writing a silly newspaper that was a news station that was in universe reporting on things, from the absolute most absurd stuff we all did. Someone was like, that's really funny. Let's put it in a book. And it's forever DC canon. So
yeah,
everything you do is incredible now. Very proud to watch you grow as an artist, a reviewer, interviewer, and everything you've done. I'm really excited for people to get their hands on this book. Where can they find you and your work?
They can find me. In terms of social media, you can find me on Blue Sky at Jimmy Gaspero. I'm also there on TikTok. If you like golden retrievers, you can follow my dog at Barry Barkington. He has his own TikTok that my wife Sarah runs. And you can just check out Comic Book Yeti. We have a bunch of new reviewers, so we got away from reviewing for a while just because it was a couple people had left, but we have some new folks involved. We're reviewing comics again. And the Cryptid Creator Corner podcast. We have, over 400 episodes. I think my episode, as we record this, my episode that came out yesterday was like the 240th episode of the podcast I did. And so, we got some great guests coming up. And like I said, a lot of indie creators and there's all the places. Those are all the places.
You can find us at gatecrashers.fan, where we do all of our reviews, interviews, and all of that good stuff as well. So make sure you pick this book up, and we will see you again soon.
Gatecrashers.